this project has not gone according to plan whatsoever. I'm hoping that this drive makes it all worth it. What's going on, guys? We are back in the garage working on my 1987 Regal project. Now, if you guys saw the last video, you saw that as we were putting some heat in the motor and getting everything going to get it fired up and make the first drive, the motor ate itself. Not quite sure exactly what happened. I can't tell if the fluid in the oil was water or gas. Didn't have a strong enough gas smell. Everybody said if it was water, it'd be milky. It really wasn't milky. I'm not quite sure, but either way, this motor is probably no good. It sounded like the bottom end came apart. We probably bent some rods. We did something, hydro-locked it. I'm not quite sure. But anyway, we cut it. This thing has got to come out. So I'm going to start taking this thing apart, and I'll give you guys a little bit of an update and kind of why it was so demoralizing to me and what's been going on and kind of why this one hit me so hard. But for now, let's get to work on getting this thing apart, because it ain't gonna do us any good in there. We're gonna have to at least get it out and inspect it. If that motor is no good, I'm not quite sure what we're gonna do, because usually I got some motors in the background. I'm all out of stock. I don't have a bunch of motors on stands right now, so we'll have to find a solution. But first things first, getting this thing up out of the way. You couldn't hear it? Maybe because the fan, the music was going. Oh, now it won't. What is that? I don't know. It doesn't sound like it's in the motor, but the flywheel bolts were all there. Unless there's the one that I couldn't see. Still doesn't explain why oil was as thin as it was, but something is just not right. So it's going to be fun trying to get these flex plate bolts out. Alright, so I've got a game plan. It's not the best, but it's what we've got. I cannot turn the crank. I can only turn it a little bit, so I can't get all the converter bolts out. So that leaves me with pulling the motor with the converter still connected, or trying to pull the entire motor and trans at the same time. I think the entire motor and trans at the same time is going to be a little bit more of a pain in the ass, so we're going to try to pull it with the converter connected. We got to be careful. So I've got the bell housing bolts out. I've got just about everything out. I'm still going to get this motor mount bolt on this side out, but it's not going to come out until I relieve some pressure. So we're going to try to get it, relieve pressure, get this bolt out, and we're going to wiggle and push the trans back and do a bunch of things to try to get it all out without hopefully damaging the input shaft or anything on the transmission. I've done it this way before. It was in a little bit easier car, so it wasn't as big of a deal, but we gotta do what we gotta do to get the motor out. There is one junk motor. Well, there we have it. Now I can get the rest of the converter bolts out. This one I couldn't get out, and this one I couldn't even reach. Well, it's a beautiful new day, and I think I've discovered the solution to our engine problem, right? We need an engine. I don't have any. So I guess it's time we go ahead and... No, not that one. You guys will see. We have got the Brooklyn Dodger, and this thing has long lived its purpose. Look, a lot of people are like, oh, bring back the Dodger, bring back the Dodger. Honestly, it should have never lasted longer than the TV show. The fact that it did is a miracle for us. So what we do have is one 5.3 LS motor that's pretty much factory everything, but it's eating a lot of nitrous. It leaks a lot, but it's continuously ate 200 shot worth of nitrous. So we know it works, and that's about all we need for the Regal right now. So let's try to get this thing loaded up, get it back home, pull the front end off this thing, pull the motor out, hopefully stick it in the Regal, get it back running. Fingers crossed. Let's go for it. What?
Big old spider web. I just put my arm right in it. But
probably. This thing's like abandoned.
not anymore. Past tense abandoned.
Yeah, we found it.
Oh my goodness.
Alright, let's try this. Doesn't open.
That one?
This one. This door, probably. No.
Mm-mm.
That one on the other. Let go of the brakes.
You're making the wasps really angry if you could not.
Alright. What? Can you let go of the brakes?
I did.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure it was done moving.
Yeah. I can go out the window.
Alright, so it's many hours later and we made it back home. I don't know if you can see in the garage. I've got the Dodger nosed up right to the Regal. So hopefully I can pull the motor, turn 180 degrees, put it in the Regal, drop it down. That is the game plan. It's been a heck of a day, and all of them have been. Kind of back to what I was talking about earlier in the video. Wanted to share with you guys a little bit. Not going to go too deep into the subject, but my health hasn't been doing too great. Some of the stomach problems and the alleged undiagnosed, but they keep telling me I have Crohn's disease, has been acting up, and it's caused me quite a bit of trouble here recently. So we've been working on that. I've been going through my VA disability claim, finally started getting some appointments. I have more appointments with the VA. If you guys remember a couple months ago, whatever it was, I was in the hospital over there for a few days, so it's been a little rough. And with that being said, I've got to do this out in the dark, so I'm going to put some light out there. And I'm not going to focus heavily on filming this because I need to get this motor out because it's going to rain all day tomorrow. So if I don't get the motor out tonight, I'm going to be doing it in the rain tomorrow, and I'm not going to be doing it tomorrow. That's what's going to happen. I'm not doing it in the rain. So let me get this whole front end off. It comes off in like 6 or 7 bolts. I can take the whole front end off, disconnect everything I need to, and then that way we can pull the motor. I'll check back in with you guys maybe along the way, different parts of the process, or just once I get the motor out. But I'm not doing super hot today either, so I'm just going to take my time and see what I can get through. It occurred to me that some of you guys may be new to the channel and are like, what in the world is this truck that he's messing with? That's a story for another time. But one thing I will say, of all the really dumb things we did when building this thing in less than 3 weeks for a television show, welding this together, welding that together, one of the very smart things we did was welded the front end together, but made it come off with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bolts that are easy to get to, bam, and the whole thing can slide off. Gonna be super helpful with getting this motor out. Well, there you have it. We've got one Brooklyn Dodger motor. Now, I know what you're thinking. Are we going to take it apart? Are we going to look at it? Are we going to inspect it? Absolutely not. This thing is a superhero. It is mostly stock, doesn't even have head studs. It has such a tiny cam in it that it doesn't even require springs. Factory push rods, I mean factory everything on this thing. We had it in the Dodger and we were able to spray a 200 shot repeatedly. It lived to tell a story. It caught on fire. It's had multiple different combinations, carb, fuel injection, everything. I mean, there's still powder from a fire extinguisher on the front of it, and it has been a good motor. So I'm not going to mess with it. I'm not going to take the chance of something stupid, you know, we mess something up, whatever. Nope, we're just going to stick it in. We just want the Regal to run and drive. Only difference is now we'll do it with a 5.3 instead of 4.8. Other good news, this one has a different flex plate on it, which has the built-in spacer, so we can use our first ever SHITBOX Street Shit converter. I have it here. It's ready to go in the car and ready to be tested. But for now, I can't even explain to you how much it took to get the motor over all of those humps, and an engine hoist that can lift thousands of pounds but can't roll over some little cracks. It was a madness. So I'm gonna catch a shower, I'm gonna get some rest, and it can rain all at once tomorrow. We've got the motor out, we're inside the garage now, so tomorrow hopefully we'll get it in. It shouldn't take too long to get it fired up. There's a couple things that I wanted to check. Somebody gave me some good ideas. I really appreciate the guys that have some good constructive criticism, you know, on Facebook and YouTube and everything. Just a couple different things we can test, because we're not sure if it was fuel related or just water that damaged that other engine. So we're going to test a couple things with the other carb. We're going to do a few things, throw it together, and hopefully, finally, maybe this thing will run and drive. I don't know. I don't have my hopes up anymore, but it's what we're going for. All right, it's a new day, and I did have to do one thing. I had to swap over the motor mounts from the Dodger. The motor mounts on the motor side did not fit the factory mounts we had in here, and honestly, I didn't like the way that those mounts were in there last time anyway. I wasn't crazy about them. I just didn't have any other ones. Got that all done up. I disconnected the headers so that way we can move them around. We can do what we need to do there. It's time to go ahead and try to start stabbing this thing in here. Let's go for it. Keep pumping. You got a lot of pumps to go. It's all the way down there, yeah. Supervising?
Yeah. She's doing good.
Well, after what took entirely too long, swapping different combinations of motor mounts to make it work, we finally got the old crusty rubber mounts on the frame side. Those are out and replaced with something new. Had to go with a combination of things to make it work, because the mounts that worked in the S10, because the Dodger is an S10 frame, an S10 chassis, that I thought would work in the G-body didn't work, but it's finally in place. So now I'm gonna get to work on absolutely everything else, wrapping it up, and then we're gonna test the carburetor before we throw it on. Somebody in the comments gave me a good idea to go ahead and put it in a bucket and let the fuel pump run, because I wasn't sure if it was a fuel issue that caused our last issue or what, or if it's the fuel pressure regulator, whatever it is, we're going to figure it out. So I'm going to put the carb on top of a bucket, let it run, and see if a bunch of fuel comes out of the carb. If it does, we may have float issues, we may have regulation issues, we may have some kind of issues that lead us to say, hey, this is what's going on, this is what we need to fix, so we don't end up having another issue again. Now, I didn't use the carb. If you guys remember the carb that was originally on the 350 that I knew was leaking was bad, I did not use that one. So let's see, let me start working on getting this all wrapped up. It's going to be probably a few more hours of just, you know, I got to get the torque converter bolts back in, the belt housing bolts, all of them back in. I got to get it mounted. I had to pull the trans, the drive shaft out of the trans, so I got to put the drive shaft back in. Switch a few parts over, like the valve covers, because up against the firewall there, the valve covers we had on the other motor I already trimmed and everything there. So let's get it wrapped up. It's looking like maybe possibly today we will finally drive the Regal. And of course, because there's a bunch of crap in the way of my driveway, I got to move the Dodger and all that in. But one step at a time. All right, SpongeBob said many hours later. We still have a couple issues that I'm hoping I can get lined out once we get this thing running, moving, vibrating a little bit, settled into space. I'm not quite happy where the trans mount is at, but we've tried prying, we've done everything we can. We're gonna see what we can make happen. It's just off a little bit. I'd like it to be set back just a little bit further. So Mallory's working on hooking up the battery ground right now. We gotta run through the rest of the ignition, make sure everything's on, you know, wires are on plugs. And then I'll hook up the cooling system, we'll do all that. And then we can test the carb. So once we do all that, have all the accessories, once everything is hooked up, I can reconnect the battery, and then that way we'll be able to turn the electric fuel pump on, test the carb, and go from there. But probably another 20-30 minutes or so, as long as the carb checks out, we'll be trying to first fire. So let's get the carb sorted next. Alright, so I've got the carb hooked up, everything tight. What I'm looking for is to see if when we give this thing fuel pressure, is it just pouring out of the carb. Alright, I mean, that would explain why we locked the last motor up. We could have hydro-locked it with fuel. If that's the case, I should be able to turn the key on, we'll get fuel pump running, and it should fill this thing up like crazy. Let's find out if that was the issue. Yeah, we got a little bit. Oh yeah, we got a lot. Yep. I don't know, that doesn't seem like an excessive amount of fuel though. Like, to flood the engine, I mean, that's enough fuel, I think, just to keep it running. That doesn't seem like hydro-locking anything. That seems just like keeping the damn thing running. I'm gonna double, triple verify with somebody. I don't know, I'll ask the internet. They know carburetors better than me. But that doesn't seem like a lot. Like, that doesn't seem like it would hydro-lock. Like, I was expecting, you know what I mean? I think it's safe to put back on the car. I mean, at this point, we've only got a few more things and then we can fire it up. So let me put that on the internet, see what folks got to say. We'll keep working on the rest of the stuff we got to do to fire this thing up. And worst case, if we have to, I've got a carb that is way too big for this and won't work right. You know, trying to floor it and everything is just way over fueled, but it would make it run and drive. So if we got to, we'll try that. But I think that's going to be okay. I don't know. I don't think that's enough fuel to, you know, like I said, that would just keep it running, in my opinion. Well, oh Lord. Alright, can you shut the key off? Alright, well, after much back and forth and trial and error, and I have no idea what I'm doing with the carburetor, that's apparent, it's obvious. I cannot get the other carb to stop leaking. We've tried cleaning the whatever, what was it? I don't know.
The needle?
The needle, we cleaned the needle and seat, we swapped needle and seats, we did everything we could do. It ain't working. Now, this has been on many vehicles. Ooh, and the bowls were full, yep. And I've got a cut on my hands. I can tell by the burning sensation that the gasoline is now providing. But we just hooked this one up, and I was like, you know, here's the thing. If this one doesn't work, it's because we have a non-return regulator, and I need to run a return system. But many people have run deadhead systems like this on a car before, Wouldn't you know, we hooked this one up. No leaky. No problems. Except for the fact that it's a pain to get it to line up. It's always been a little bit of a pain. Like the holes are just like slightly... Jeebus. But I'm about to throw a carburetor across the room. There we go. But this one has no leaky, which means it's not going to blow up our engine. Now, way oversized, way overfueled, way everything. I probably won't be able to like floor it because it just dumps too much fuel. But that's a problem that apparently is an easy fix. Allegedly, so is fixing the other carburetor. But you know what? After all the crap and everything, I have no patience for any of this, nor do I care about a carburetor. So we're gonna go with Old Faithful because at least Old Faithful can drive around. Thank you, Dave Terrizzi, for providing us with Old Faithful that has done nothing but that, been incredibly faithful. Now that we've got a non-leaking carburetor, I can put the belt on, we can put some nuts on the carburetor, do all that, hook the throttle up, whatever we gotta do, we can fire this thing up. Let's do it. I'm missing the actual dipstick part of the dipstick. I have the dipstick tube, no dipstick. Don't know what's in there, but I know that this thing leaked. Put a cord in her. We got Old Faithful on there. If this thing blows up, I'm taking it all out. I'm cutting the Dodger up, welding the Dodger together. Because at least that thing's supposed to be a piece of crap. Usually helps if I hook the ignition box back up. I had it disconnected for reasons. Sounds a hell of a lot better than it did last time. It works! It finally works again. Let me tell everybody I know. You gotta get it up to temperature, let the thermostat open. It's like quiet. Look at that. Like it's just quiet, working. Want to drive this thing around?
Yeah.
Alright, well, let's wait till the thermostat opens and we'll take it for a drive, finally. Well, I think I got the thermostat to open. I've got water through it. It's an absolute mess. But the first thing we need to do is head to the gas station, fill her up, see how she does on the road. So, it ain't nothing but a thing. Let's do that, and then once we know that that's good, then we can go through and recheck fluids and check everything. And I don't know, I'm just exhausted. This project has not gone according to plan whatsoever. I'm hoping that this drive makes it all worth it. that drive shaft that everybody said wouldn't work. It's working pretty good right now. I don't feel no vibration, no nothing.
I will say that's the one thing I don't feel is vibration. It might sway a lot,
It
but
sways.
but it ain't vibrating.
Oh, and the non-power brakes, you gotta jam on them. The old faithful. Dude on a bicycle.
In the middle of the lane.
In the middle of the street. Of all places to ride a bicycle, this motherfucker riding down the middle of the street. Ain't got good brakes, right, dog? So we don't have the power brakes because I had to swap carbs, and this carb is more of a racing style carburetor that does not have vacuum port. So the other carb that is jacked up, I don't know, we'll probably get it fixed. I had to get this test drive like out of my system. We had to do it. It's been too long, too much BS. I mean, it's finally happening. I don't know that we're getting any squealing tire action or anything like that. But you know what? That'll all come. Along with the power steering, that'll come too. Park works. Oh, it's so dirty. It was sitting there. We need a car wash bad. I'm putting that in the trunk. I'm keeping that. Looks brand new. Oh, let's get some fuel in this thing. We'll check it over, see what's leaking, if anything. We had a little trans fluid leak. I'm thinking that the O-ring on the dipstick tube might be bad, so that might be the issue. It's okay, you can't figure this stuff out until you take it for a drive. Like, you gotta, you know what I mean, take it for a drive. The coolest thing about this car, right here. Oh, I didn't park it. On my forward.
A little tight there.
A little tight. Spicy. You want a crazy drink? You want anything, Mommy? Huh?
Perfect.
Safety first.
Yes, please. Nice.
The giggle of happiness when it works.
Back to the 80s on the radio. We got the 87 Regal. We got Meatball in the back. It's a beautiful day. Well, she's a driver. That's pretty cool.
See, now it's coming back.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Like, I definitely need to figure out what's going on with the gear selection. If I, which you guys know me, I'm not. If I was happy with just doing, you know, 50 miles an hour cruising down the highway, there's not a cooler car to do it in, I don't think, right now. Feels like the rear end's going to come out of it, or I don't know if that's the rear or the front or a combination of ball joints, all that, everything, but it's just like, now granted, on these roads, the Amish ruts in the roads and everything, I mean, they're terrible. Still, it feels like, ooh, I mean, that could just be old, loose 87 G-body stuff. So, also, I did click the trans brake on just to see it clicked, but it didn't hold. So that tells me we're definitely having some kind of a gear selection issue. I did make a mistake. I don't think my alternator, I don't think the hood is going to clear the alternator the way it is, so I'll have to buy some kind of aftermarket bracket setup for it. But now we can nut and bolt check. We can, I don't know that we're going to get through inspection with the brakes the way they are with non-power brakes. I'll have to hook up a vacuum. I'm sure I can tap into something up there, get some vacuum going to get the brakes working, but I mean, we got insurance, but at least now I can fire it up, move it out of the way, everything. We can bring the Nova in here, slap some head gaskets in her, get that thing at least ready to race again temporarily. I haven't even talked about what I wanted to do, but we'll figure that one out. For now, I think we should end this on a high note. It drives, we've got music, it moves, the Regal is alive. I didn't give up. The Dodger brought us back to life. Poor Dodger. That thing is really cool, but it is a pile. So we'll find something to do with it one day. Today's just not that day. But I've been working nonstop for days. Between not feeling well and everything else, I'm ready for a break. So I'll catch you guys next time. Thank you guys.